he cited that Congress didn't give an authority to remove or to make the decision. But the coincidence, if I'm a scientist, the correlation is perfect. So I certainly think that I had something to do with that. So I'm glad that we had a chance to try and work out some of these issues and find a way to find a better solution to this problem. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to, but I'm not quite sure what we do next. So I hope we'll talk about that some. My decision, I want to talk a bit about my decision for putting those two complaints forward. So it was a hard one. I spent 2 weeks really doing a lot of praying, doing a lot of consulting with my parents, trying to figure out what the right thing to do was. And I wanted to make sure, being a Christian, wanting to not be selfish, I wanted to make sure that if I went forward on this, I wasn't doing it because it somehow benefited me. I wanted to make sure I was doing it for some selfless reason. And I came up with two. One of them is just the scientific integrity, that the public needs its civil servants, its scientists to do science that the public can trust. And I feel that by putting my allegations forward, that I'm helping to push the government and the process in that direction. Secondly, I'm concerned about the next person who has my job. So whoever has my job next will probably face the same kinds of issues I did. And I hope that this process might free them up a bit to actually speak their mind and do the right thing. Additionally, it's occurred to me that there's a whole lot of scientists in the government that are doing good work and are afraid to come forward with these kinds of truths because they're afraid the same thing will happen to them that happened to me. So perhaps through my process, they will get confidence. They will realize that there is a way for scientists to have integrity and tell the truth and have the public trust. So that's my hope, and that's my motivation for doing this, and it took me a long time to come to that. There are potentials that I could see a benefit from this, but that's not why I'm doing it. The best thing that I could have happen out of this the situation of making these complaints to the government would be to get my job back. And I'm not all that interested in that. It would be a rather poisoned environment. It was a poisoned environment when I was there. I'm not sure if that's how I want to spend my career, but if I did get it back, I might have to think about it seriously because I could still make a difference there. But meanwhile, I'm going to try to make a difference in terms of promoting scientific integrity and hopefully changing the way the government works so that we can really trust it. So, since this has all happened, I also forwarded my complaints to a number of members of Congress as well as boards of supervisors, and I've gotten some public attention. So I certainly appreciate that. It wasn't necessarily my intention to go public with this, but it's probably the best thing that could have happened because you're all here listening to me, and it helps me to put this agenda forward. In terms of what's happened beyond the secretarial determination being delayed, I also have heard that the Department of Interior is formally investigating my allegation. So they are hiring an outside panel. I'm guessing it will cost them, $50,000 to $75,000 to hire outside scientists to independently review my claims. And by the way, in my claim, I grabbed some documents off the Siskiyou County website, some letters that the Board of Supervisors have sent, also with concerns about science in terms of the dam removal, and included those in my claim. So So I'm hoping that they take it seriously. I think they are taking it seriously, and they're pushing that forward. I'm expecting to hear a response about the scientific misconduct probably in a few months. Also, the Office of Special Counsel, in terms of the whistleblowing, is still investigating it. They've been investigating it for 2 months. So at least they haven't dismissed it. It means they are taking it seriously, and they are, it's not just a trivial thing that they can easily throw out. So I'm hoping this will go forward, and probably at this point, prayer will be appreciated. That's about all I have in terms of the current response, where I'm at right now. Let me talk a little bit more about, I often get asked the opinion, well, what do I think about dam removal? Because I didn't actually say whether I'm in favor or against dam removal. I'm principally wanting the government to make good decisions based on sound science. And what I've seen in this example is the decision has clearly already been made, and they're doing science to support that decision or justify that decision. Let me talk a little more about that in terms of biased science. I've also been asked whether I thought the science in the draft EIS, EIR, the environmental impact reports, was good science. And that's hard to necessarily come to a clear conclusion on, because scientists are often biased based on who they're paid by. Let me just give you an example. So when I got my first job out of college, I got this job offer from NASA, and I told my professor at Arizona, you know, I got this great job at NASA, and he said, congratulations, but I need to warn you that the only reason why NASA has scientists is to justify putting junk in space. And that put it into perspective for me a bit. And that is generally true. So NASA is a big engineering organization. Their mission is to put stuff into space and do things with space. So I got the opportunity to do science of many different kinds of how you can use sensors from space to observe rainfall and snow and all kinds of things. And I really believe those kinds of things can make a difference in the way that we do science. However, there's also opportunities in that case to misuse. So I had an opportunity to look at a mission concept. It would be about a $500 million mission to measure stream flow from space. So using a laser or a radar to bounce off water bodies and find out how high they are. It sounds kind of cool, but it turns out this is a really expensive mission. It's a hard mission to do. Like I said, about $500 million. Well, it turns out a strain gauge on the side of the river is about $10,000. So we can put many, many, many strain gauges out for the cost of this satellite mission that will only last a couple of years. But that wasn't my job, to point out that maybe we should give some of the NASA money over to another agency to put strain gauges out. So you can kind of get an example how I could do perfectly good science, but I'm doing science that's paid for. Somebody's telling me to do science to, meet a certain goal. And so I'm not necessarily going to look at all of the alternatives. I'm not going to consider all the options, and I may not be doing science that's in the public trust. And that happens all the time to scientists. That happens when consultants are hired by the government. That happens when companies hire scientists to find oil or to do to develop new pharmaceuticals or whatever. They're hired with a goal to produce some, profit for that company or to meet some agenda item. And then we don't get the kind of unbiased science we need for making the decisions we need to make. So answering the question of whether good science is in these documents is maybe not the pertinent issue. It's whether we have the breadth of science we need to make an informed decision. Have we studied all the options? Do we have a good way to weigh whether or not dam removal or bypasses or fish ladders or some other option is the best solution for this? And are we also after the right things? Are we balancing an approach that preserves habitat but also protects the economy?